Hurricanes. Canes now up 1-0 in the series. Alexi Protas with a lone goal for the Capitals in the second period. Jacob Slavin with the game-winning goal in overtime. Game 2 will be tomorrow night. Also, the Utah Hockey Club has officially introduced their new team name. They'll be the Utah Mammoth, one season after they relocated from Arizona last year. Basketball tonight, Celtics and Knicks, Game 2. New York leads that series 1-0, 7 p.m. tip-off for that one. Thunder and Nuggets, Game 2 of that one. The Nuggets lead that series 1-0, 9:30 for that game. And in the NFL, a couple of wide receiver moves today. The Cowboys acquired Steelers wide receiver George Pickens. The Steelers get back a third-round pick in this upcoming draft in 2026. Also, they made a pick swap in 2027 for a fifth and a sixth-rounder. And the Jaguars released wide receiver Gabe Davis just 1 year after they signed him to a 3-year, $39 million contract. From the Crop Metcalf 5-Star Sports Desk, I'm Toby Altizer on The Fan.
Let's do a radio program. What say you? We are Grant and Danny. It is Wednesday, May 7th, 2025, and you are listening live to 106.7 The Fan. We're over at Nats Park. We will be here in a dormant facility for the next 2.5 hours. We got a lot of business to tend to for you, including giving away tickets to the DC Defenders right around 6 o'clock tonight. That's a couple hours from right now. But, Danny, we have not gotten our chance to weigh in all day long because we're just now getting on the air to discuss last night's Washington Capitals tilt with the Carolina Hurricanes.
Oof.
Game 1 to Carolina in a very decisive way. The shots on goal column, pretty telling, 33-14 in favor of the Hurricanes. The shot attempts even more so tilted towards Carolina. If you watch the game, you know what happened. The Hurricanes looked amazing. They were dominant. They carried play. They possessed the puck circuit to circuit. It was 2-1 in terms of offensive zone time. I don't remember that lopsided of an overtime game in my life. The fact that the Caps, A, scored the first goal, B, led after 40 minutes, C, led right around 50 minutes in, and D, went to overtime, first off, is a compliment to their goaltender, Logan Thompson, who was fantastic. Also, to some good fortune, there were some posts hit by Carolina, but they got outplayed and outworked, and they had better make some adjustments.
Yeah, I was talking to my wife last night. I did the post-game show here for the Nats, but was watching with Tobes in the press box on our computers, phone, etc. And she asked me how the hockey game went. And I said, that's really hard to answer. They went to overtime. Lost in overtime on a, fluky hockey goal play, which happens in this league. A shot from the point, it ricochets between 11,000 different people, screen, a goal, that one of those dirty playoff goals that, could have gone either way. But I said, I've never seen a more dominant 2-1 overtime victory in my lifetime. And she goes, what do you mean? They were winning. And I said, yeah, but come on. The post, I think, made 5 saves at one point for Washington. Thompson was excellent, which is going to have to happen in this series. But the thing that I was afraid of, I wasn't even afraid of it that much. I didn't think it was going to be that bad in terms of the way Carolina was going to possess the puck. It just felt like Washington was playing fetch. Like, if you ever get one of those dogs that's never tired and you just throw the bone and it runs and picks it up and brings it back, that was the Caps trying to get to center ice last night. Just digging it out of their own end. Yeah.
And when they did get the puck in their own end, they would immediately lose it generally.
Immediately.
In the neutral zone. They were sloppy. First period was very strange. They looked like they hadn't played in a week, which they haven't. But you can't really say that's an excuse because Carolina hasn't played in longer, and it didn't seem to bother them any. But the Capitals, I don't know if you noticed this, how closely you were monitoring on the phone or whatever. I counted 6 or 7 guys that fell while skating for the Capitals in the first period. Fell. What is that? They're slipping and sliding. I know it's the spring and you're in an arena and the ice might not be great. It wasn't happening for both teams. But, some pucks that were rolling and some bad fortune early. But I think you just got to look in the mirror and say you got your teeth kicked in a little bit. That was the Hurricanes playing their best game and you playing as bad a game, not only clearly their worst game of this postseason through 6, but probably that they played offensively in many, many postseasons in years. They got all of 14 shots on goal against Frederick Anderson. That's the entire night. That cannot happen. Just as an example, Carolina had 12 in the first period. I thought the second period was actually very even for the most part. The Capitals had the 1-0 edge in scoring with the Protas goal. The shots were 8-6 in that period. Hockey kind of happened. The ice was tilted still a little bit in Carolina's favor, which is going to happen. It's why they're beloved analytically. But the first period was a mess. The third period was a disaster. And then it was only a few minutes of overtime, but it was just impending doom. It felt inevitable.
Yep.
Even going into overtime, all you could hope was fluky thing happens and they steal a game they really don't deserve to win, which has happened over the years so many times to them, where they've outplayed a Penguins or a Rangers team, and then the Penguins get one rush, and despite being outshot by 15 or 16, they pot a goal on a backhand breakaway, and they win a 2-1, 3-2 playoff game. And the Caps had a couple of those chances, by the way.
They did.
When it was 1-1, Ryan Leonard got a breakaway in all alone. If he scores with about 5 minutes left, they're up 2-1, and we may be talking about a 1-0 series lead right now, despite being outplayed all night long. But you miss those few opportunities you're going to get. You don't take advantage, and when you get outplayed like that, you're just waiting to bleed out by paper cut.
There was one time during the telecast where, again, it wasn't shots on goal, it was shot attempts. Since the Protas goal, right? So I can't remember the exact unit of time, but since Protas scores, by the way, an amazing play by the big man. That was just incredible.
I was very happy with him there, almost as happy as I was mad with him on his turnover that led to the goal that tied the game, because that was just an unforgivable pass to the center of the ice that led to the goal. So he giveth and he taketh
I
away.
agree on both.
But to your point, that snipe is the dream. That's why he became a star.
Just with the go-go gadget arm reach that nobody else can do, just flicks it to himself, and that was an incredible moment. But after that goal, it was a 44-6 shot attempt run for Carolina, and several of those, of course, landed on net. But it's one thing to say, okay, yeah, Carolina's not afraid to pepper the net with pucks. They're going to try to keep chipping away at you, and that's fine. So they're going to have a shot advantage. To that level, as you said, this was inevitable.
Yeah.
Everything about this just felt like Carolina's winning this game. It's just, when it happens. Like, we could do it soon. We could do it later. They were the better team for the overwhelming majority of that one. So before the series started, you and I both posited, I don't want to put words in your mouth, we're both going, Carolina should be favored.
Yeah.
They're really good. They've earned it. I understand that. That is a good team. It's a good matchup for them. Why are they so heavily favored? Why do the Caps have the worst odds to get to win the finals, to get to out of the Eastern Conference, to win this series of any team left? After that first game, I'm worried that I get it now. That's my fear. Is I go, well, actually, maybe I understand the way Carolina is. It had nothing to do with the way they finished the regular season, losing 7 of 8. But there's something about this playoff, this ramp up that they're doing. Man, oh man, was that impressive. They were dominant.
So there's no doubt that in that game, it looked like a Stanley Cup favorite against the team that's left that has the worst odds. I still don't think that makes any sense for the actual odds, right? As predictive as those can be, it's also got to be based on the merit to that point. And the Caps, who are the best team in the East and the second best team in hockey and top 5 in goals scored and allowed, had just gotten out of the first round with more ease, frankly, than Carolina did, because Carolina went to 2 double overtimes in their series and went the same number of games. So I will always not understand that logic, because it's not as predictive as it is reactionary in a sense on the market. Having said that, yeah, it didn't look good last night. There's panic setting in, and it wouldn't be this Caps fan base if it wasn't. I remember all of the comments I got every step of the way through 2018 too. And most years you guys will be right, because you don't get to win a cup every year. But every single year, this will be the result. When they go down 1-0 or when they have a bad playoff game, and they happen, hopefully not as bad as last night or as lopsided as last night, the comments are that they stink and they're old, and I'm getting that they have to rebuild, which is comical. I hear that every year when they lose in the playoffs. They're the best team in the Eastern Conference. They've got a good young system, a ton of cap space opening up, and then exploding salary cap. But, yeah, this is a good time to hit detonate for sure when you're down 1-0 against the Hurricanes. But I'm looking forward to seeing what adjustments are made. You got the coach of the year on your bench in Spencer Carberry. He's got to go earn his money now. He's going to win the Jack Adams Award for being the best coach in hockey this year. And he's got his work cut out for him. Because the fear that I had about this being my scariest matchup, the team, I don't fear Florida like I fear Carolina. And Florida's a better team probably. Carolina, frankly, and the Capitals, while different in their styles, are not that different in terms of quality. But there is something about this matchup, and it's just always kind of been this way in recent years, where the Caps get Carolina's best shot. They typically allow them to dictate terms. And on top of that, they almost, it's I don't want to use the word fearful, but it's like they're so scared to be aggressive and try to go be active offensively. They're so trying to be so buttoned up defensively that you're just waiting for something to happen, and they got to move the puck. They got to get up. They got to go. They got to skate. They got to try to act like you're good too. And when they played Carolina, for some reason, it just feels like they go into the matchup going, we're playing the Canes. Let's batten down the hatches. And I wish it wasn't that way, but it certainly played out that way in game one. That was for an overtime game, which if you want to look at it that way, you can. That was as David Goliath for 60-plus minutes feeling as an overtime game has ever been. And it's not even that. It's not like they scored a fluky goal to go to overtime.
Right.
They scored first. The Canes never led for 1 second in the game. Think about that.
Mm-hmm.
They won the game to go up 2-1. They did not have a single lead last night, despite how they played.
Yeah, which is wild. And, I was hoping that it's never a great spot to be in when you're hoping, hey, the thing that's ruined my spring so many times over, that fluky goal when I outplay the opponent, maybe that'll happen for me.
Yeah.
So as Carolina was getting maybe more and more frustrated.
Especially on home ice, Danny.
Totally.
Like, if you're there and they're outplaying you like that in game one, you go, okay, we got to get one of these two games, come back 1-1, take care of home ice. You haven't played in a week if you want to use that excuse. They didn't seem to want to use that excuse as they played an amazing game rested. But, however you want to make it make sense in your head. But when you're at home, you kind of have to put the hay in the barn. So it is even more impactful because now, in addition to losing the game, the Canes are one of the best teams in the league on home ice, and you've lost the home ice advantage in the series. You just made it a little harder for yourself.
And I'm sitting there going, am I really going to be able to steal 4 games from this team? Right, because that's as you're watching the game play out. I got to know it's one game. It's not necessarily does a series make, but I'm going. Can Logan Thompson do this 4 times where you get a lead and you hold on for dear life for 45 minutes or whatever the heck it is? And they weren't able to last night, of course. It wasn't the 7 or 8 chances that Carolina created that hit post. The Thompson made a great save. It was the god awful giveaway finally deep in their own end. But to me, that's thematic of the evening. All the things that you and I both want to rise to the challenge, to punch back at them, so to speak, not literally, but figuratively, to get the pucks deep, etc. They can't get out of their own end for minutes at a time.
Well, somebody said to me, I can't believe the Caps didn't hit them more last night. And I said,
there's no chance to.
How do you hit someone when you're not near them? Like, they're hitting you more. They had more hits than the Caps.
Because all the offensive zone time. So that's when you get your hits. There's some the occasional open ice, this, that, and the other. But when the puck is deep and the defensemen are going to dig it out, the forwards are pitching back down to help out. That's when hitting time is.
Correct.
When you can't get it deep for periods, when you've got 3 minutes of offensive zone time in a 20-minute period, numbers approximate, not many chances to hit people.
Right. Yeah, and generally, the team that doesn't have the puck gets the hits. That's actually the way, that hits always work, because you go, man, we're out hitting them. That's awesome. It's actually not awesome. They've had the puck the whole game. So the fact that they had the puck the whole game and they out hit the Capitals is alarming. I actually thought there wasn't enough snarl for 2 teams that despise each other, which they do. For 2 teams that had 100 PIMs in one period, if you remember back to 1 month ago on like April 5th. Division rivals. There was not a single skirmish after a whistle until the 3rd period last night. Probably by design. Maybe Spencer's been in people's heads going, don't get dragged into anything stupid. We have to stay out of the box. They'll kill us if we're in the penalty box. But I needed a little bit more just pushing people around and getting under people's skin and, bumping a goaltender coming through the crease after a whistle. You had none of that last night. The fight that you look for after the whistle, and I don't mean physically fighting people, but just the little things that every team does. Even the Canes weren't doing it. I was shocked. I thought it would be after every whistle all game, people getting separated, people getting dragged to the box for matching minors or whatever. And you just didn't see it. So there was a lot about last night that was surprising to me, that was disappointing to me, obviously. Now, here's where I will lose people. I'm going to lose you here.
Okay.
You will disagree, and that's fine. And I think most people are going to hear what they want to hear. And act like this is some excuse making. We've just spent roughly 18 minutes talking about how badly the Capitals played and how well the Hurricanes played. The Hurricanes win the game that was played last night, I would say 80% of the time, maybe more. They deserve to win in overtime. I think that the narrative of last night is being overblown just a tad. And what I mean by that is Carolina's style, Danny, is to take 1 million shot attempts. It's not quality shot attempts. What they do is possess the puck. That's the problem, not the shots, in my opinion. The problem last night is that the Caps never shot the puck. The problem last night is that the Caps never had the puck. So we can talk about that. But everyone's doing this thing where they're looking at the numbers, and it's 90-plus shot attempts to barely over 30. The Hurricanes shot about 37 shots per game in the first round. They're a high-volume shot team. Philosophically different than Washington. Washington is a high-danger opportunity team. They're going to pass up shots, maybe to the fan base's frustration at times, because they're looking for getting the goaltender moving. Carolina's kind of old school in, throw that puck toward the cage, let Logan Thompson catch it, and let's have a face-off. And so the attempts just pile up, pile up, pile up. I don't really care as much about that as high-danger chances, right? I don't care as much about that as scoring opportunities. The scoring high-danger chances last night were 14-12 in favor of the Hurricanes over the Capitals. Very, very different than shot attempts, shots on goal, all of those things. So the high-danger scoring chances, that's the area I look at and say, how did the game play out? Shots in the slot, which were very similar. I think it was like 7 apiece. I don't know that it was quite as bad, maybe in terms of, like, they had 90 attempts. It wasn't like they almost scored 7 goals. What Logan Thompson wasn't standing on his head, making ridiculous saves one after another. But I want to get thoughts on that from you and from our listeners next. 800-636-1067. That's 800-636-1067. Just getting started from Nats Park. The Caps find themselves down 1-0. They're coming back home tomorrow at Capital One Arena for Game 2.
I'm Toby Altizer with your sports update on the Fan. The Nationals fell to the Guardians 8-6 today. Mike Soroka making his first start since March 31st. He went 5 innings, gave up 4 earned runs. The Nationals have the day off tomorrow, then they'll begin a 3-game series against the Cardinals on Friday. In hockey, the Capitals fell in Game 1 to the Hurricanes 2-1 in overtime. Alexi Protas with a lone goal for the Capitals. Game 2 coming up tomorrow. Also in hockey, the Utah Hockey Club has officially introduced their new team name. They'll be known as the Utah Mammoth. In basketball, the Warriors beat the Timberwolves last night 99-88 to take a 1-0 series lead, but bigger news coming out of it. Steph Curry left the game with a hamstring strain. He's going to miss at least 1 week, a grade 1 left hamstring strain. The other game last night, the Pacers beat the Cavaliers 120-119, taking a 2-0 series lead. In the NFL, Cowboys made a trade to have a second option besides CeeDee Lamb. They get Steelers wide receiver George Pickens. The Steelers get a 3rd-round pick, and they swapped a 5th and a 6th-round pick as well. And the Jaguars released wide receiver Gabe Davis just 1 year after they signed him to a 3-year, $39 million contract. From the Crop Metcalf 5-Star Sports Desk, I'm Toby Altizer on the Fan.
Did they just out-execute you guys tonight as far as breakouts and doing all the little things that go into winning a game?
Vogues, if we sat here and went through the whole game from breakout to getting through the neutral zone to forecheck to wall play, we could. It wasn't good, and that's the bottom line. Our entire game was not good, and we'll, like I said, we'll regroup and we'll get ready for game 2.
I don't remember a post-game presser with Spencer Carberry where he was more bothered, irked, irritated, displeased, just put out to be there. He hated everything about his team's performance, you could tell. And I think I get it. It was not a particularly good performance. In fact, the Caps were bad last night. The Hurricanes were great. And somehow the game went to overtime. Do you take any solace in that? My wife just texted me and said, they played such a good game, and you're saying how bad the Capitals were, and yet they needed overtime. That's got to frustrate them a little bit, too. There's something to that, but to me, the story is not that. That is chapter 7 that's only a couple pages long in this book. The book last night was, my God, the Hurricanes are a problem, and the Caps have a lot of adjustments to make.
Yeah, I think we were here at Nats Park, so to use a baseball analogy, you lost, 2-1, but the 27 outs the other team got were all line drive missiles that literally went at somebody. And it wasn't my pitching staff that did it. They caught a lot of barrels.
And they stranded runners in every inning.
Bases loaded every time. That's how it feels. There's no solace for me in this one.
So go back to my point at the end of the segment, and we'll get to the calls in a moment. 800-636-1067. To clarify, Caps bad, Canes good last night. Lopsided. Canes should win that game 80+% of the time. But everything I'm hearing is shot attempts. Shot attempts miss the net. Shot attempts get blocked and are lazy into someone's feet, too. There were 90+ of them, and only 30-ish got to the cage on Logan Thompson. And on top of that, I just care more about where is the shot from in terms of the slot where they scored their game-tying goal from high danger. Beat Logan Thompson for the first time all night. Or 1 or 2 of those that rung the post in more dangerous areas. They gave up way too many of those chances. They gave up 14 high-danger chances last night. As an example, they gave up the lowest, 24, to Montreal in 5 games in round 1. That's too many. But they also had 12. They were -2 in that. When you look at slot shots at home plate, and around the most dangerous area of the ice, it was almost dead even. So while, yes, they got dominated, while, yes, if they play that game 4 times, they probably get swept. I don't think they will play that game 4 times, but if they do, it's going to get ugly. I think it's a little bit overstated because Logan Thompson was great with the glove, but it wasn't like he was sliding all over, pad save, Holtby the save. There weren't 10 Bell saves. He was just really good and in the right spot quietly all night long. They threw a lot of pucks at him, and he made the stops.
So what's the question? Are people getting this wrong?
Aren't we overrating a little bit of how bad it could have been? I've been hearing callers and people on the radio going, that game should have been 8-1. No, it shouldn't have. The expected goals in this game yesterday are 3.5 to 2.8. There weren't a ton of great opportunities. Now, again, if you want to say they hit some posts, whatever, that happens. That's part of it. The post may have gone in. It might have also gone 2 inches and just missed the net altogether and not even been a shot. The Caps were bad. They lose that game. But this idea that it's the attempts that bother me. They're playing a team that just their philosophy is to shoot from their bench. Their philosophy is to shoot from center ice. It's an attempt. It got blocked in front of the cage. Look, the goalie stopped the rolling puck that I barely get to him. That's what they want to do. How many times did they almost score? That's what I care about. And those were 14-12, a much more even game than people think.
Yeah, I think you're going to disagree with me, but this is what I would do. Like in the regular season, it's more valuable over 82 games to do the high quality scoring thing. I want this, the speed, the relentlessness, because it's all part of the method of the madness. You win. At one point, it was about 60% of the faceoffs. The Caps evened it up towards the end, but it still was 55-45 in terms of faceoffs won. Just it's more time in that offensive zone. We're starting defensive zone draws. So, yeah, even if it's not the greatest opportunity, you force the Caps to block 32 shots, usually leads to more possession. You force Logan Thompson to use the catcher's glove, more offensive zone starts. The whole point is it's just waves crashing on the shore. And the inevitable results are what happened. So this is the thing that I've been afraid of because it's been done to me so often.
Right.
I
But these
hate
types
it.
of
And
teams don't win very often. Like the Hurricanes have nothing to show for this era right now. They win a playoff series every year, but the speed teams like Edmonton, the speed team, the Colorado Avalanche are the fastest team in the league. You preach speed. I also love speed. Speed's great. Heavy often beats speed in the playoffs, but I'd like to be both. The Caps are a big team with a little bit of speed. The Canes are a super fast team with a little bit of size. But the Avalanche are at home right now because the bigger team, the Stars, sent them home. And you look at like who actually wins and when. The hardware's not there. But look, last night is what we're talking about.
Right.
The Canes whooped their butt. The question
yeah.
is, was it a one-night issue, or is this a matchup that's going to get away from them? I mean, look, they played 5 times this year. Nothing has resembled that. So I'll take solace in the fact that with a really good coach in Carberry at home, they get back to the drawing board, and they play a much better game tomorrow. The problem is that doesn't get you anything because you could play a lot better and still lose and be down 0-2.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I don't know how many fixes there are. There's only so many ways you can say, get the puck out of your own zone. I think Carolina is, they're always there. Because it's not just open. It's not a race. It's not a speed race. We're going blue line to blue line to see who's the quickest or whatever. It's the fact that wherever you want to go with the puck, they're already there harassing you. They force you into those bad plays.
On nights like last night.
I think that's who they are. I think that's who they're going to be in this series as the Caps are going to labor to get possession, to get some of those quality chances.
The Devils, who I think were the worst team to make the playoffs in the East, took them to double overtimes twice in a 5-game series. I guess I just don't view them as this team that doesn't bleed like it seems like everybody else does now. They're a terrible matchup. Said that going into the series.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at. Who knows how they'll fare against Florida or whoever they meet in the next round, but I think they're going to the next round.
And part of it for me is it's a mental thing. The Capitals don't back down from Florida. They go in to that barn and they score goals and they play them better, and it just seems like for whatever reason, Carolina is a bugaboo for them. There are teams that just have certain clubs where they often don't play their best game. Some of that I think is the physical matchup, and some of it maybe is mental. But they just got to clean it up in the defensive zone. And you mentioned, like, what can you do differently? We'll talk to Joe Beninati about this coming up at 5 o'clock, but they got to move the puck. The puck's faster than the skater. Like, I bumped into Joby after the game last night, and we were talking about this. Standing behind your net and waiting for things to happen, move the damn puck. You got to keep it moving against this team. Let's go to Will and Stafford on Grant and Danny to get things started. How are you?
Hey, guys. Doing good, man. Thanks for taking my call. I got to agree with Danny. I think Carolina's our kryptonite. I mean, they're there before us on the dasher boards. In hockey, they say get pucks deep and put pucks on net. And when you put pucks on net in the playoffs, especially with traffic in front, it hits a hip, it hits a shoulder, it hits a leg, and it deflects in. They had a couple pipes last night. They shanked a couple 1-Ts. Nothing drives me more insane than trying to clear the puck up the slot, especially on the penalty kill. John Carlson, love him to death, all-time Caps defenseman, but he's been fumbling a lot of pucks in his own zone.
Totally.
Carolina, their speed, their secondary scoring. We've gotten better with speed. Leonard, Duheim, Mangiapane, but they're just there quicker. And it's tough. It's going to be a tough series. I almost went to bed after the third period. I saw you could sense it coming in overtime. It was a tough one to stomach, but hopefully they'll bounce back. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate you. Let's go to Kurt, who's in Ashburn on Grant and Danny. What's up, Kurt? How are you?
Good afternoon, gentlemen. I would have everybody remember that at the end of the 18 season. Holtby was looking bad, so we started the playoffs with Grubauer. We lost 2 at home to Columbus and looked terrible doing so. I feel like a lot of other people thought, well, this doesn't bode well. This may be bad news. And as a matter of fact, we had to come from behind in every series and won the cup. This is way too early to panic, guys. Way too early.
I agree with
Appreciate
that sentiment for sure. It's one game of a best of 7. And this is what happens, whether it's baseball. We've seen it with the Nats in these 5-game series, in the DS, or 7 in the CS World Series, when they're down 3-2 against the Astros and everyone's talking about spring training. It's normal. It's natural. It feels so much bigger, but it is a game. The problem for me with this game is not that they lost, really. It's how they lost. It looked so discouraging.
So lopsided.
And like they were just not involved, which was never the case against Columbus. But I'll have a better feel after game 2 like everybody else, but I think they just played their worst game of the series. If not, then this will end pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to reference 2018 also. You can reference 2019. So every time a team gets off to a bad start for baseball, it means they're going to win the World Series at some point. 2018 was miraculous the way that they were able to keep coming back. They got swept last year in the first round. So, do I get to evoke that one also? I mean, I think everything's different. We're sort of talking about.
I think he's just talking about that winning the first game of a series is not the end-all, be-all.
Of course.
The Hurricanes lost the first 2 games of the series to the Caps and were down 3-2 in 19, which you just referenced, and won the series.
Right. Absolutely. I guess kind of my point is looking at this matchup right now, this minute. I don't know. Again, I'm not a hockey strategist. There are people who've forgotten more. Joe B's forgotten more this morning than I know my entire life. But the formula that Carolina has, I think, is the Caps kryptonite. And that's the thing I'm most worried about here is you could draw whatever up you want. I'm hoping there are fixes. And if so, I can't wait for tomorrow night to see them.
Caps Elite Player of the Game time, Danny. You got to single somebody out who shine. It's presented by Elite Power and Energy Corporation. Let Elite Power and Energy install a backup generator for you and fill your propane tank so you don't lose power when the storm hits. 24/7 service, complete and powerful solutions. Elite Power and EnergyCorp.com. Your elite capital of the game was?
Logan Thompson is my answer. This could have been a lot worse if he wasn't on his game last night. Just to get, I know the volume isn't always the end all be all, but their whole point is they're going to keep poking you and bothering you. It's like a boxer with a soft jab or something. They're constantly feeling you out, looking for that weak spot. And if you don't crack, you keep the team in the game. I thought Thompson's the answer.
Matt Roy, I thought, was amazing. He was on ice for 26 minutes, 40 seconds last night. Had 30 shifts, blocked a team-high 6 shots, and the Caps blocked 1 million shots being
32 last
in
night,
their
right?
own end.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just ridiculous. Had a couple of hits as well. Now, he was on ice for the game winner in overtime, had the puck to try to play it along the wall behind the net, but 0 giveaways for him. Maybe they're going to help the Capitals resuscitate them in this series as everybody thinks they're down and out. Hopefully they've got the defibrillators
Get
on
the
that
paddles
fire
going,
truck
yeah.
over there. Clear. All of our Caps coverage on G&D today is brought to you by our friends Ace Trim Carpentry. 25 years, Ace Trim's been a trusted trade partner for new home builders in the DMV. They specialize in full-service interior trim carpentry, handling everything from supply to installation, turnkey, and hassle-free. Contact acetrim.com today. Ace Trim, the home builders trade partner. Was that just a bad game, or do you feel like this could be a series that doesn't bode well for Washington the way the Canes played last night? That's the question on G&D. FanDuel's the best place to find all your favorite player props, and now you can make the smarter
Spencer, you mentioned a litany of issues, but the physicality one, I think going into OT, they out hit you 42-30. Was that a little surprising to you, being that you guys seemingly had that advantage coming into this series? Well, you're chasing a lot, right? So that's even surprising because they had the puck so much. So usually when you don't have the puck, usually you're initiating contact to try to get it back. So, but like I said, establishing a forecheck is usually where you get most of your contact, and that was essentially non-existent.
Spencer Carberry was just a salty dog last night.
Ticked off.
And he should have been. Hey, play cut 3. Carbs at his most irritable in the press conference. I'm pretty sure this was one of his couple of answers that were like one word, but he was asked, he was told what Tom Wilson thought of the game and if he agreed. Anytime he got the out of a yes or no question, Carberry, who normally is willing to expound upon things and let me educate you on hockey a little bit, just Mr. Nice Guy, he was taking that yes or no opportunity.
Tom said he felt like you guys were just a little bit off all night. Would you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, that's accurate.
So good.
I don't have a single follow-up to that.
How about this one? The cut 1, Darius, when he's talking about where the Canes, what you thought they were, where did you get surprised?
Spencer, you talked about how well you know this opponent. Is that exactly the kind of game you would have expected them to play this style?
Yeah.
I mean, that was the answer. Then there was several seconds of awkwardness, and then someone else asked. And he's normally a very, very garrulous, accommodating guy. How about cut 6 here on Logan Thompson?
Coach, can you at least talk about LT's play?
Thought he was fantastic.
That was the answer.
Okay. I guess that's...
I mean, if you don't think he wasn't ready to go watch the film and just get after some people's asses this morning, I don't know what to tell you. Now, it sounds like you've got him playing a 1980 Russian team and there's no answers to be had and they can't skate with the Hurricanes, who they beat twice this year. But they're going back to the drawing board with the coach of the year, so we'll see what they can come up with. Let's go to the phones. 800-636-1067 is the number if you want to hop in on Grant and Danny. Let's go to Jonathan Manassas on line 6. Hey, Jonathan.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. The Canes, Carberry, in a sense, is right with the short answers. I don't really agree with his answer on Wilson, but, of course, it's the only answer he can give. The Caps weren't a little bit off. They were knocked off their game. The Canes pretty much imposed their will for 3 periods. It wasn't like the Canes came out in the first period really strong. The Caps were a little off, but they regrouped in between periods and came out strong in the second. They didn't, and in the third, they were perhaps their worst period. At one point, the shot attempts were 13-0. And you might want to diminish shot attempts, but they're a dictation of possession. And
Correct.
the Canes had like 3 times the possession the Caps did. But
Yeah,
here's
that's the problem.
Here's the interesting thing about Carolina, though. When it came to even strength shot attempts for the year, they were the number 1 team in the league. They had over 1,300. The second best team was Florida, who had 556 less shot attempts at even strength than Carolina did.
Yes.
Carolina was one of the best penalty killing, I think the best penalty killing team.
Number 1, yeah.
They were the best team at suppressing shots, only giving up like 25 shots on goal a game. And yet the Canes were only a 99-point team. This is also a team that averaged over 3 goals a game. So what gives here? Why weren't they a 110, 115-point team? What's the weakness? What's the Achilles heel? Well, they gave up about 2.8 goals a game, which suggests if they're only giving up less than 25 shots on average, that their goaltending was suspect all year. And yet we didn't test Anderson at all. We had 1 goal that was a softie. But we couldn't build on it. We had no response to their forecheck or their pressure. It was nothing we didn't expect. We've seen it all this year. We saw it last year with the same players. I mean, come on. Where was the response? This is 5 days rest.
It's a great call.
Yeah.
I agree with every word you
dude.
just said. And you lay out the numbers beautifully. I mean, again, this team was very good. They were one of the best teams in the East. But you just played 82 games, and they didn't – this isn't a President's Trophy team. They weren't even better than the team they're playing right now. They're on enemy ice games 1 and 2. But you can't figure out if you can beat their goalie if you don't get the puck to their goalie. 14 shots all game, Danny.
Yeah.
14 shots.
It was dozens of minutes of real time between legitimate shot attempts on goal. And some of them, weren't necessarily high quality chances either. So
15 minutes in game time between
yeah,
shots.
I mean, it's insane to me. And again, that's my fear. You just outlined it. Whether you care about shots or don't, whether you care about the point is you can't do anything if you don't have the puck.
Yep.
And Carolina's got the puck the whole time, and that's the fix. Whatever that is has to change. You're not going to outpossess them 55-45. I just don't think that's in the DNA of anybody in this series, really anybody that plays them. But it's got to be closer to even. I mean, the offensive zone time, just the amount of energy it seemed they had to expend just to clear it out of their zone. I'm not talking about there was whether it's a lazy icing or a rush the other way or like a chance created or even, get the Caps into their offensive zone to run your cycle, to get your, to make them tired. It felt like it was the world's greatest accomplishment just to clear the zone, just to get to neutral ice, to have them, throw it right back down and start the whole process over again.
They didn't have one time last night, not one, where they had a shift, non-power play, where they were set up in the offensive zone for 30, 40 seconds, buzzing, cycling.
Yeah.
Passing, moving around. They had a couple of power play opportunities like that didn't net goals. And they were okay. And their first power play especially, they got 2 great chances. But as the game went on, 3 of their shots for the 14 all came on that first power play. But you're right. I mean, they just never got set up because they never had the puck, and they could not get through the neutral zone. JR's in Boston. What's up, JR? How are you?
Oh, living the dream. Normally I'm a hater, as I've been named, whatever, but I am not as concerned because all they did was prove me right. That game last night, because they played hard, as John had said, when he was interviewed for the midday show, but they didn't play smart. It's all between the ears. They've done this throughout the entire year. Sometimes it's a game, sometimes it's a period. They did it last series, where they played like trash, basically helped Montreal with 4 goals, and then came back and crushed them the last 2. I fully expected after 5 days rest, because we know over the last decade, probably 2 decades, this team sucks after 5 days rest. They do best with 1 day off. And they had just did something they have never done before, is win the first round in 5 games. They were going to lose tonight. I bet you they come back and you see the normal Caps who come in and dominated the next 2 games. Whether they win or not, because of puck luck, who knows? I expect a very different team the next 2 games. And then I expect Carolina then to take their foot off the gas. If they win the next 2, Carolina win the 4th one, because this is what the Caps team does. They cannot stay mentally engaged 4-5 games in a row, period. They just have never done it the entire season.
That's
They've never done it for hardly any full games.
Yeah,
And so,
it's been a long time. Thank you for the call, buddy.
Thanks, bud.
That I'd have to look up. I mean, the idea that anybody wins 4 or 5 or plays great hockey 6 games in a row, I'd say that's pretty rare. You're chasing a little bit of a ghost when you're the number 1 team in the conference in terms of wins and points, and you're competing for the President's Trophy. So I don't know how much more you could have asked for in the regular season. But the point I do agree with, John Carlson has said it as much on our air verbally. This team has not responded well to rest. Remember when he used to talk about he hated the 3 and 4
Yep.
5-day layoffs? He thought it was bad for
The weird early season schedules that always happens. Yeah,
he said we're at our best when we're playing every other day, yada yada yada. Well, the Hurricanes had to deal with that too, so I'm not using that as an excuse. But his point, the caller's point, is true. It has been a bad thing for the Capitals traditionally when they get that type of break. There's no doubt about that. By the way, you can go vote on our 106.7 The Fan Grant and Danny poll of the day presented by Metropolitan Moving and Storage. What is your level of concern after the Caps dropped game 1 of their second-round playoff series against Carolina? Not concerned at all. I don't know how that could be the case. Slightly concerned or very concerned?
Put old Randy Duguay in the very category. Before the series started, I thought Carolina would win it. That hasn't changed. Just, I guess, and how long it's going to take, maybe it has. I was really disheartened by last night.
I kind of view every game of the series as its own entity. And based on that, I'll say slightly concerned. I'd be lying to you if I didn't tell you my nerves are going to be frayed going into game 2 here. But I just think that'll be the worst game that they played. And I got faith that Carberry can figure something out. Let's talk to Joe Beninati next. He's no longer on the call of these games, unfortunately. Monumental's run is done for the playoffs, but he is working at the desk for them pre and post. He was in the building last night. We'll get his thoughts on a Game 1 setback on Grant and Danny here on The Fan.
I'm Toby Altizer with your sports update on The Fan, and this update is presented by PVI Office Furniture, fast, excellent, affordable. Business grows with PVI. In baseball today, the Nationals fell to the Guardians 8-6. Mike Soroka making his first start since March 31st. He went 5 innings, gave up 4 earned runs. The Nationals back in action on Friday against the Cardinals. In hockey, the Capitals fell to the Hurricanes in Game 1 in overtime, 2-1. The Canes take a 1-0 series lead. Game 2 will be tomorrow at Capital One Arena. Also, the Utah Hockey Club officially introduced their new team name. They'll be known as the Utah Mammoth. In basketball, Steph Curry left the game last night with a hamstring strain. Even though the Warriors were able to win Game 1, they'll be without Steph Curry for at least a week. He has a grade 1 left hamstring strain. And in the NFL, the Cowboys made a trade acquiring Steelers wide receiver George Pickens, giving up a 2026 third-round pick and a 2027 fifth-round pick. George Pickens goes to the Cowboys alongside a 2027 sixth-round pick, and the Jaguars release wide receiver Gabe Davis just 1 year after they signed him to a 3-year, $39 million contract. Looking to upgrade your office space at PVI? We'll come to you to design the perfect office space for your team. No hassle, no stress, just a game-changing upgrade. Hit a grand slam with PVI Office Furniture when you call today to score 50% off your purchase. Get your office in championship shape at PVI.com. From the Crop Metcalf 5-Star Sports Desk, I'm Toby Altizer on The Fan.
You can go vote on our poll of the day on the 1067 The Fan Twitter account. After last night's loss to the Hurricanes, what is your level of concern? Best of 7 for the Caps. Not at all, a little bit, or very. Poll of the day, Metropolitan Moving and Storage. Local, long distance, residential, or commercial. 3 decades of best-in-class service and experience. We've got DC Defenders tickets, a 4-pack. They're coming home next weekend. We'll give those away for you in 1 hour at 6 o'clock. But let's go to the Ruud Guest Hotline. Ruud, the most reliable heating and air conditioning products in the DMV. Grant and Danny live from Nats Park, and our guest joins us from an undisclosed location in Northern Virginia. He is the great Joe Beninati. Joe B., the Lads were the second-best team on ice pretty distantly last night, huh?
An undisclosed location in Northern Virginia. This sounds extremely secretive. I love this. No, the Lads were not at their best last night. That was obvious. And in listening to your show this afternoon, you guys and your listeners, you have it all surrounded, and it was right there. It was obvious. It was evident. The thing is that the Caps shouldn't have been surprised by anything that they saw yesterday, and yet still there was the reaction like, whoa, what is this? They've encountered it in the past, and the strangest thing of all is if you talk to other coaches around the league, they'll tell you that both Carolina and Washington tried to do the same things. Schematically, they're a lot alike. Last night, one team executed nearly flawlessly, and the other didn't post nearly as well as we might have expected on home ice.
So, Joe, the billion-dollar question then is how much of that, thinking this from a Capitals perspective, how much of that is, Caps didn't play that well, and how much is Carolina didn't let them play well? How much of that is their influence, or maybe Washington isn't the main character in this story? How do you balance that?
They influenced, Danny, they being Carolina, they influenced a lot of what went on last night. When you look at it analytically, metrically, the numbers are nowhere near to anybody's liking in DC. I mean, that was a butt kicking of a 1-1 game.
Yeah.
I've never seen a more lopsided one, I don't think, but you were in the game through the grace of Logan Thompson. And it's not as if Logan had to make 10 bell saves to do it. He had to be extremely sharp to keep you close, to keep you in a 1-0 advantage after 2 periods. But it was the sheer volume of time, the amount of time spent in your own end that is troublesome. Now, I fully expect today was mostly in meetings dealing with how do we get out of the zone cleaner. How do we get out of the zone at all? And I fully expect this coaching staff, which I think the world of, and these players to be able to make a countermeasure to what was put on them last night. Now, here's the other thing. Carolina did it beautifully last night. Can they sustain it? Yeah, it's their MO. They're used to it. But at that high of a level, I mean, that was extraordinary what they were doing. And they were doing it to a high caliber quality NHL team. Can you sustain that? Can you do that again and again and again? And if so, you tip your cap and you move on. But I fully expect Washington to be a totally different squad tomorrow. And if not, we've got problems. But I would expect them to be much more ready for what they're going to face. It's not as if they weren't ready for it. They just were overwhelmed by it. Now, okay, guys, here it is. You've seen it. Let's react to it and do it better.
That was as impressive a performance as I can remember watching. I'm not just saying in the playoffs. I mean, period. They had a plan, and I think at about a 99% clip, they went out and did what they wanted to, and they weren't playing the Flyers. I mean, they're playing a really, really good hockey team, and they made them look pretty bad. But to your point, replicating that could be tough, and that's where tomorrow gets interesting on home ice. Joe B., do you think Carbs makes any lineup changes? You know, Radish drew out. The guy that they were tinkering with maybe was Leonard. He had a team-high 3 shots on goal and a breakaway late last night. He couldn't finish. Do you expect any kind of changes at all after a game like that?
Obviously, Grant, we'll find out sooner than later. I'm not inside the mind of Spencer Carberry and Kirk Muller and Mitch Love and Scotty Allen and the entire coaching staff. I know that what you're considering is likely to be the move. If there is a move, you would try to position Protas on a different line up top. You have 2 options there. Usually it's either with Strome and Ovechkin, or you create that monster line in terms of size and height and weight. If you go Protas, Dubois, Wilson, that's a spot for Pro to go. Beauvillier to me is and I've seen other people use the expression, he's your Swiss Army knife. He can go anywhere from first to fourth, and I like his playoff experience. I like his pace. Obviously, I like his productivity in the first round. So if you're going to make that change and you're going to sit someone, to me, it's repositioning Radish back on that 4th line with Duhaime and Dowd. I love the way those 3 work together when they are partnered up. And it would take Ryan out, it would take Leonard out, have him sit and watch a little bit. This is, again, you're only so many weeks into a pro career, and now you're in the 2nd round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. And I don't want to say that he's over his head, but he's learning on the fly, and he's having to learn really quickly. And there are skills that he possesses, namely the speed. It's the speed factor that he brings that keeps him in the lineup right now. Now, I don't know if they're willing to make that move, but to me, and be Radish for Leonard.
So talk me out of this from a hockey standpoint. I know they don't want to put McMichael at center. But to me, and you could tell me I'm wrong, I think Lars Eller pulls the 3rd line down. I think offensively they're getting nothing out of him and haven't in a long time. I believe he had 2 points after the break in February. He had 1 in his final 15 games. He's had 1 in these 6 games. And when I've asked people about it around the team, a lot of times they'll say, he's really good defensively. We can't not have his defense, and maybe that's your answer. But is the juice still worth the squeeze there? And what about your best offensive lineup? If you go another game where you're getting 14, 15 shots, where Mikey plays center, I know he's been great on the wing, and you just have better skaters everywhere. Because to me, Eller's been their worst player for an extended period of time on offense.
Lars hasn't produced, but the size, the face-off ability, the defensive posture keeps him where he is. And I just hope and wish that he could crack through and feel a sense of relief. There were a lot of players in Washington last night who didn't play very well. I think Connor McMichael would look in the mirror and say, I wasn't at my best in game 1 either. There weren't very many Caps who were. And I know what you're saying with regard to McMichael in the middle. I don't know about making that move at this point in time.
Right.
I think they like what they like from a structural standpoint. And again, you have to consider with coaches, it just seems like if you're going to err on one side or the other, they err on the defensive side, and that's magnified in the playoffs. They want to defend as best they can, and the belief is that Lars gives them that ability there in the 3 spot.
That's Joe Beninati. We're Grant and Danny live at Nats Park here this afternoon. So, Joe, we mentioned this earlier, but I want to get into the how. These zone exits. it felt like climbing Mount Everest to clear their blue line at times, right? It was just this relentless Sisyphusian effort to get just the puck, let alone to carry some offense, let alone to carry the puck into the opposite end or even dump and chase or even get a line change off.
Or what is it called when you the puck hits the goalie? A shote.
A shote.
Yeah, shote.
A sahat. But so the zone exit part of it, nothing else happens without that. What's the fix there? Because, again, to me, this is what Carolina does.
And it's what Washington would like to do to Carolina.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me because these two teams do have the same type of MO, and one team exerted it yesterday and one team wasn't able to. So now you're asking for the fix. To me, they're going to spend a lot of time on how can we help specifically the 6 defensemen who have to go back, retrieve pucks on dump-ins. How can we help them, A, get to it quicker, B, see the outlet faster, C, make sure we get the damn thing outside the blue line. There were too many of these almost clears, failed clears last night. Those just wind up coming right back at you. The thing that I noticed, and it's different, guys, when I'm calling a game compared to just watching in the stands or watching in the studio like I was yesterday, it was so obvious to me how good Carolina's defensive 6 were. Slavin, Burns, Orlov, Chatfield, Walker, Gostisbehere, and specifically, they're the ones who help turn the heat up on you in the defensive zone. Yes, their forechecking forwards are relentless. I understand that. But the defenders take the boards away. They pinch down. They work in concert with either a winger or a center, and they just wrap you up. You feel like you're a mummy. And all you do, if you're Washington, and last night all you were doing was just flailing to try and get the puck out. To me, Danny, the fix is I need more guys deeper in the defensive zone. I need the passes to be quick and tight. And in a football parlance, I have to make somebody miss. I have to make somebody miss a tackle. I'm going to have to make somebody miss on a forecheck and move out of the zone as a unit. If they can keep 5 in the picture in all 3 zones, they do better. And that'll also help them when Carolina's operating off the rush, which, again, just watching from the stands and watching from upstairs, how smoothly they entered the zone, how cleanly they were able to do it, and then create their offensive opportunities as a result. Thank goodness for Logan. And if LT plays like that, you have a chance in every game in this series. It's why I thought the Caps would win a long series. To me, they bounce back. They figure things out tomorrow, and then you've got to figure out how in the world to get a win in Raleigh where the Canes are fantastic. But let's go one step at a time. Getting the puck out of the zone. It sounds so simple and so easy, but to me, that's the critical element tomorrow night.
Joe B., the puck possession speaks for itself. Ozone time was 33.5 minutes to sub 17. Obviously, everyone's talked about the shot attempts, 94-34. But I was making the case earlier. I care less about that stat. Puck possession is the whole name of the game. That goes without saying analytically. But I care more about the high danger stuff and where the shots are and are they in the slot. And when you actually look at those, I think they had 7 slot shots. It was 14, which is too many, to 12 in terms of high danger chances. They gave up just 24, the lowest of any team in round 1. But for me, I didn't think like Logan Thompson, while he was amazing and he was very sound and steady and made all the saves, it wasn't like he was sliding all over the place and making saves that are on number 1 on SportsCenter. I thought a lot of the attempts were kind of nothing burger attempts or got blocked. What do you make of that discussion where I care more about the high danger stuff, and I know the Caps view it that way, not just throwing pucks toward the net to get the attempt, but getting a quality attempt?
You and I are looking, Grant, Danny, at the very same table, I think. It's a game 1 comparison, and to see shot attempts for Carolina nearing 100, I mean, that's scary, but that's their trend. If we're going to talk about quality versus quantity has always been Rod Brindamore's thought. Get it there, get screens there, tips, rebounds, deflections, force the goalie to maybe act too quickly and fumble a rebound or 2 and give us another opportunity to reset, as opposed to, I think, Washington for a number of years with the tremendously high-skilled players they've had in this lineup for many, many years. It's been about, you give us a good quality chance and we'll put it away. Okay, that you're going to have to do that. You're going to have to be especially economical in this series, because if Carolina keeps the puck in your end the way they've been doing it, if the possession time is so slanted, you're not going to get very many chances to beat Frederik Andersen. When you do, you have to put it away like Protas did last night. For me, I agree with you, Grant. There was a game earlier this season, and Spencer Carberry loves to point to it when he's asked about what kind of a gamer, what type of a big game, hungry, competitive atmosphere or personality that LT has. He refers to a regular season game in Montreal where there were 4 breakaways. I want to say 3 of them were in the third period alone. That wasn't what we were seeing last night. I agree with you. He didn't have to go crazy with phenomenal stops. He made a lot of really good ones, trust me. But there were post-hit. There were not breakaways. There were not a superhuman amount of odd man rushes against them. So in that sense, the game was closer than you thought. Where it felt so lopsided was, if you're a Caps fan, you're sitting there going, why am I just turning my head to the left? I never have to move back. It's just at one end of the ice the whole time. That was hard to figure out.
Face-offs, Joe B. It was 55-45, but it didn't feel that way. It felt like the Caps went like a dozen in a row at one point without getting one, and it just helped that Carolina relentless amount of possession in their offensive zone.
That's going to balance out over the course of a 4, 5, 6, 7 game series. It's definitely going to. The tendencies for the center iceman, whenever I speak with Nick Dowd, whenever I speak with Dylan Strome, those guys, all of them, Lars, Pierre-Luc Dubois, they all have a very, very good reference point, a book, if you will, on the other guy. And more often than not, who they are facing, they have a good counter move for what his favorite move is. So I don't think you're going to see it swing much more violently than probably 55-45 in any particular game. If it goes more lopsided than that, then it gets to be a little bit worrisome. More than anything, if you ask the Caps, they're going to ask for their wingers to be better, to be more helpful. If these are 50-50 pucks, you've got to win battles. And that's another thing that I thought I saw last night was, in so many times when the puck was available and it's you and me, it was you that was getting it too often, more often than me. And in Carolina's favor, those 50-50 battles have to start coming back to Washington, and that can start at the dot. And that's, a lot of coaches use this expression, we don't face off just center against center. It's 5-on-5. And my wingers and my defenders have got to help me win that draw.
Joe B., great information. I look forward to watching you tomorrow. What time will you be in high definition on my television screen?
Well, I get to work the pre and the post tomorrow.
Oh, so look at you.
Put you to work.
Everything begins on Monumental Sports Network at 6. We'll be breaking it all down, and hopefully we'll be a lot happier by the end of the evening than we were last night.
Is there a special sartorial bit of pep that you're going to have to put into this one, knowing that the boys need it?
At this time of the year, Danny, it's just about red ties. I can't tell you how many red ties I have. I don't know. It became a rite of passage or a superstition, I guess, in past playoffs. So once we get into the postseason, it's all red ties.
What's your over/under on tie number total?
In terms of
just how many? If you had to guess,
he's over 100.
100. No, come on, boys. I've been doing this for a long time.
Who are you talking to, Rouillet?
Come on, Rouillet. Randy Douillet? No, there's a lot of ties to pick
200,
boys.
200?
Oh, please, higher. Come on now.
310.
Dude, I don't even want to. Let's not go there. Let's not go there.
Just answer me this.
If
I'll
I
let it go.
Picture you guys would
please take a picture.
Is it a 4-digit number?
No.
Like how many days in a year?
365.
Could you go one a day?
Oh, way over that.
Oh my God!
Oh my God! That's incredible.
How about pocket squares?
Oh my God, boys! Stop it already! Stop it already!
Joby, I've got 12.
We'll say
how
over.
many times 12?
We'll let him out on over.
You're gonna laugh at me. I have there's 2 drawers of an entire armoire that are just pocket squares.
I love
100.
I love
it. Scary.
That is outstanding.
He has a great connect too.
You remember MTV Cribs with the athletes and celebrities?
It's just one room in Joby's house. and it's the
I want to
clothes.
do something for Monumental where I just go out there and just go through his drawers and he talks about all of his pocket squares.
Guys, the problem is I need the home to match. I have the wardrobe, but I don't have the home to match.
Hey, couple more cups and we'll get you that home. Joe B, thank you, buddy. We appreciate it.
See you, brother.
Keep your chins up, boys. We're going to do all right.
Yeah, game 2 tomorrow night for the Caps at home. Capital One Arena. All of our playoff coverage brought to you by Astrom Carpentry. For over 25 years, Astrom's been a trusted trade partner for the new home builders in the DMV. Specializing in full-service interior trim carpentry, they handle everything from supply to installation, turnkey and hassle-free. Contact astrom.com today. Astrom, the home builders trade partner. Danny, it sounds like the Dallas Cowboys are trading for one of the biggest problem children receivers in the NFL. I'm sure this will end well. That's next on G&D.
Risks. There are things that I need to take very seriously. I want to be around to play with my kids and be able to be physically active well into my older age. And I'm trying to take those steps right now, this minute. Co-Pair helps you do it. Call them. Do what we have done. So many of our listeners have done as well. It's 855-888-0180. That's 855-888-0180 or copairhealth.com.
Altizer with your sports update on the Fan. In baseball, the Nationals fell to the Guardians 8-6 today. Mike Soroka making his return to the mound. His first start since March 31st, went 5 innings, gave up 4 earned runs. They have the day off tomorrow. Then they'll begin a 3-game series against the Cardinals at Nationals Park on Friday. In hockey, Capitals fell to the Hurricanes 2-1 in overtime in Game 1 of the series. Alexi Protas with a lone goal for the Capitals. Game 2 going to be tomorrow. In basketball, Steph Curry going to miss at least a week with a left hamstring strain that he suffered in last night's win over the Timberwolves 99-88. Is a grade 1 left hamstring strain. And in the NFL, the Cowboys made a trade for their second wide receiver option. George Pickens from the Steelers goes to Dallas. The Steelers get back a 3rd-round pick in 2026 as well as a 2027 5th-round pick. They send George Pickens and a 2027 6th-round pick to the Cowboys, and the Jaguars release wide receiver Gabe Davis. From the Crop Metcalf 5-Star Sports Desk, I'm Toby Altizer on the Fan.
Wilson hooks a pass, looking, end zone! George Pickens climbs the ladder for the touchdown! Wilson to Pickens is potent.
We're live at an empty Nats Park in the left field concourse. Grant and Danny with you on the Fan for another hour. We'll take you up to 6:30 tonight. I am so happy about the Dallas Cowboys trading for George Pickens. I just can't see through my giddiness. In fact, I'm so happy I wish I had a twin brother I could share it with. That's how excited I am. This is a problem child. This is a selfish football player. This is an extremely skilled, talented, bit of a head case, I would say, that Mike Tomlin couldn't get through or fix. But I think Brian Schottenheimer's the guy for the job. What could possibly go wrong? It was just this past December, Danny Houtier, when the Pittsburgh Steelers were gunning for the postseason, and in their Christmas Day game, he showed up less than 90 minutes before kickoff, and Mike Tomlin had to say, "Not today, young man.
You don't get to play."
Just so you guys know, 4 hours or so before kickoff is when the early risers get there. But, within 3.5 or so hours is probably when you should post. He was under 90 minutes before kickoff waddling through the locker room for the biggest game of their season. Very skilled player. Led the NFL in yards per catch in 2023. 900 yards receiving on just 59 grabs last year. 15 a pop. Go balls. He's athletic on the sideline. It's a lot of back shoulder stuff. It's a lot of slants that he can make plays in the middle of the field, run away from people on, boxing them out with his size. He's a big receiver who even plays bigger than 6'3" and 200. So you're going, where's the catch, Grant? Here's the catch. And if you listen to this show for any period of time, this will be the least surprising thing ever. Not on my team.
Oh,
George Pickens, giant pain in the ass, can play for someone else. He could go catch 60 for 1,100 maybe for someone else. Not on my team. He's someone else's headache, and today he became the Dallas Cowboys headache, and I am thrilled about it.
So this, I think, is the fundamental difference between you and I. I'm 100% with you that I don't want him. This is not Washington should have traded for George Pickens. Not what I'm saying at all. I would not say that because everything you're saying is correct.
He can't play for me.
Yeah, it's going to melt down and it's going to implode. All I can think about, though, is the fact that he'll probably be available twice against Washington, and he'll probably be awesome. And it made their offense, at least at times, formidable. And it's a great compliment to CeeDee Lamb opposite him. And I'm terrified of it. Again, big picture, it's going to end terribly. It does because that's who's involved here. But there's going to be a time where it hasn't ended terribly yet. And I feel like that time will be they'll do that schedule when it comes out where they play Washington twice in 3 weeks, some kind of weird divisional thing, and he's going to torch us. That's the first thing I thought of. I don't want my rival to have him. I also don't want him either. That's where I'm at.
He had his 3rd best game of the season last year by way of yards against Washington.
Oh, yeah.
5 for 91 and a touchdown in Landover at Northwest Stadium. He only had 2 games better than that. He went for 113 against the Colts on the road and 111 at home against the Jets. He's a good football player, and you are right. He is a problem when you have to defend his size in the middle of the field and the back shoulder stuff. If they had a quarterback that I worried about throwing him the football, in Pittsburgh could have been a real issue for teams for years to come. And they just didn't. Mason Rudolph's going to be their starter right now. If it was Rodgers, by the way, the back shoulder throw
Oh,
that
my
he
God.
makes to George Pickens, I actually thought that would have been one of the best fits ever.
I mean, he's got some DeAndre Hopkins to his
Totally.
with that kind of stuff. The
Catch
tap on the
radius.
sideline. Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
He's got a little bit of that. But you're thinking about the best parts.
Oh, I
What
know.
about when he is yelling at the receivers coach?
Mhm.
What about
That's all
when
coming.
he's showing up 87 minutes before kickoff? What about when he's getting ejected because he's fighting with the corner because he's putting himself over the team because he's tackling someone behind the play? Mike Tomlin has made a career of getting guys to act better in Pittsburgh than in other places.
Mm-hmm.
And they have had these malcontent types that were issues other spots, like, and even at the end of their runs there, Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, whatever. Ben Roethlisberger, by the way, look at his track record.
Sure.
He ain't a saint. I don't think he's in the running for Pope coming up at the conclave.
It's a good bet.
But Mike Tomlin makes it work. He didn't want to deal with this guy anymore. He threw his hands up and said, let's go get a draft pick. And by the way, they gave up a third for him.
Yeah.
I love this so much. Does it make their offense better? Absolutely. Did they need a weapon? For sure. Are they a scarier team to defend? Yes. But I would bet I'm looking at my wallet.
Is it the farm?
No, I'm not giving up my Pupatella VIP
I was going to
card.
say, would you bet the Pupatella card?
The Pupatella VIP card is the most valuable thing in my wallet. We are making good use of that Pupatella
I actually tend to
VIP
agree with you.
card.
Yeah.
I got no money, actually. So we got...
You never carry cash.
Yeah, but I also have no money also.
Okay.
How about this?
Would you bet the Pupatella gift card?
No. Stop saying that.
Under any circumstance.
I don't want you to say that anymore. It's just not a nice thing to bring up. I'm going to bet lunch. I'll take you and the boys to Walters.
Oh.
If he is not either kicked out of a game, benched, or involved in some controversy with a teammate or coach this year. I think all of those things, one of them on my bingo card is a lock.
Yeah, I think you're going to get bingo. I mean, it's the George Pickens special. It's the bonanza. But the in-between parts is what I'm terrified of. Like the games that he's going to perform well, because those are coming too. So you're right. It's going to end terribly. And I know it'll be a crash and burn situation in Dallas. And they don't have a culture strong enough to kind of deal with that, whatever this is right now, this minute, especially with first-year head coach in Brian Schottenheimer.
I think Schottenheimer's the right guy to get through to him.
Yeah, I love this.
I mean, he is such a skilled, wonderful, deserving head coach. He's, what would you say, top 3 in the league, top 5 in the league?
Top 3 with the last name Schottenheimer.
I'm definitely entrusting him with a mercurial head case of a player. Why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
I mean, he runs a room better than anybody.
It's his third year in the league talking about Pickens. So, it's potential contract time. So who knows? Maybe this is the just straight and narrow guy. My point is, I'm terrified of what it means for the matchup against Washington. That's the only part I can think about. But in general, I can also say that's one plate I'm spinning. I got it spinning right here in my left hand.
And that,
in my
by
right
the way,
hand.
that's just always going to be a thing.
Yes.
Someone's playing the Commanders, you're nervous.
Yes, especially someone that's good.
If
and
the
he's
Caps
good.
weren't playing the Canes, and for some reason they allowed the Blackhawks to play them in the second round, you'd go, I just don't like this.
I don't
This is
like
not good.
I don't like it.
That's the your heart as a fan. So that's part of it is he's going to go 4 for 97 and a touch against the Commanders once, and you have to start with that.
Yeah.
But there's going to be a lot of 2 for 26s in there.
And there's going to be some tantrums, some throwing of things. There's all the issues are coming. So I both relish in the potential suffering of Cowboy fans who should repent and reform immediately. You're all wrong. If you've never been to Dallas, you should be embarrassed. But the second part is I'm terrified of what it means for those couple times he plays Washington.
I want the Cowboys to do more stuff like this. I want them to get back to the early 90s.
Just beat
the stuff that they wrote about in those chapters of that Cowboys Empire book, like barbershops and craziness where people were just doing wacky things.
Little stabby.
No, let's not. Is that what happened in the barbershop?
Yeah.
I thought it was like some inappropriate behavior stuff.
Well, I was thinking about Michael Irvin stabbing a guy.
Well, that's pretty bad, too. No, I don't want anyone getting stabbed. I need Cowboys yelling at each other on the sideline. Like the old Greg Hardy shoving a coach. Just everyone's angry. And Brian Schottenheimer's the man responsible
He's
for
holding it all together.
keeping everybody
He's
together.
holding it together.
One of the funniest press conferences of all time. Schottenheimer actually did a pretty nice job. I watched every minute of it. Jerry, oh boy. I would have paid to watch Jerry in that press conference. This is the team that you want to do poorly, and that press conference is an indication that this person is incapable of running a football team.
Yeah, this is our
at
plan.
point.
This is what we're going to do. So, thought noise.
By the way, Brian Schottenheimer is the head coach of the Cowboys.
Yeah,
Have we
good.
mentioned
That's
that?
a good FYI. That's right.
I just thought I forgot about that for a couple months, and now that it's May 7th, it's a good time to remind everyone. But Pickens, what about what they gave up? 3rd-round pick this coming year, and then a 5th-round pick for the draft
for next
in
year.
DC in 2027.
Pretty good compensation if you're Pittsburgh for a guy that you didn't want to deal with anymore, right? I mean, but for Dallas, they're desperate that you have to turn over different stones than you normally like to. And I think that was the case here, where they just need something, an injection of life on that side of the ball, especially.
If you guys want to join us and give us your thoughts on the Cowboys trading for George Pickens, you worried at all about them adding a weapon? Or, like me, do you just want to watch the organization burn a little bit by bringing in a bad actor? 800-636-1067. How will that end? We're Grant and Danny from Nats Park on the Fan. We're Grant and Danny, and the show is brought to you by the law firm Condori and Murad.
We love those guys. They are the absolute best. I want to know, what are you doing to protect your family's assets? As the exclusive sponsor of our show, that law firm, Condori and Murad, they can help you draft your last will and testament, set up a living trust, or put together a medical power of attorney. Schedule a free consultation with their attorneys today by visiting kmlawyers.com. Be sure to let them know that we sent you. That's kmlawyers.com.
In 15 minutes at about 6 o'clock, we're going to be giving away a 4-pack of tickets to the DC Defenders. They've got a great game day atmosphere at Audi Field if you haven't been out there. And they're competing near the top of the United Football League. They're coming back home next weekend. We've got that 4-pack for you. If you want those tickets to the good seats, you better be listening in about 15 minutes. Let's go to Randall in Mechanicsville on G&D. What's up, Randall?
Hey, guys. Love the show.
Appreciate
you. Yeah, everything you all said earlier about Pickens is accurate. He's going to throw a tantrum. He's going to probably throw a helmet. It's going to hit somebody. It's going to be a story, this and that. But you know what's going to happen. Guaranteed. Twice a year when they play Washington. You know.
Blowtorch, man. Yep.
He is going to Daniel Jones twice a year, every year, until, they get sick of him. Have 150 yards, 2 touchdowns. Next weekend, whoever they play, 2 catches, 20 yards.
You know what, though? I would rather them – tell me I'm wrong, Randall. I would rather them be throwing the ball to George Pickens than CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
To me, that's not a terrible thing.
Appreciate
if you're
bro.
telling me George Pickens is going to be a focal point and have some 6-catch, 100-yard game, then CeeDee Lamb's not going 10 for 137 against you. So I would take my chances with Pickens, who drops footballs, who does dumb things, who fumbles, who gets penalties, grabbing guys by the face mask, trying to shove them out of bounds after a catch on a bubble screen. I'll take my chances. And you're right. He might have numbers against Washington, but isn't the juice worth the squeeze for the inevitable meltdown? For when you're watching the national TV game against the Giants in Week 11, and he's screaming on the sideline, and someone has to go sit him down, and then they go down to Lisa Salters, and she's talking about how George Pickens is upset because he wasn't targeted, but we just found out that on Wednesday he didn't show up at practice. And also, by the way, did you know that Mike Tomlin called him and said, "I told you so"? I can't wait for that.
It's the different mind frame, the different set right there. Like, that's coming. I'll be excited when it happens. It's the torching of Washington. That's the that's the thing I care about so much. You can big picture stuff, and that's awesome. It's a good quality to have. I'll get there. If and when Washington's eliminated, or if Dallas is playing a meaningful football game, like it's Thanksgiving and they're playing Philadelphia, and he does one of those meltdowns, I'll have a grand old time with it. I'll do a little tap dance and go, ha ha, Nelson Muntz style from The Simpsons. I just can't have Dallas be any better against Washington. I need them to stay down under my thumb.
Darius dropped this in the chat. I think this is worth discussing right here on the Grant and Danny radio program. FanDuel asked this question. I don't know why. There's no betting odds involved, but I'm a FanDuel guy. Is a baseball game a good first date idea? Now, maybe it's just that I love baseball. I have long thought that baseball was not only a good first date idea, one of the best first date ideas. In fact, I'm a married man with 3 cheering, and I've got a 4th cheering coming in July. On my first, I don't consider this a date. You tell me if this is a date.
Okay.
The first time I ever met my wife in person, we met on, on Twitter, actually, I think, or one of these accounts. I don't remember. We're like going back and forth. We're tweeting. Next thing you know, we're texting. Next thing you know, we're meeting up, right? We went to a sports bar to watch an Orioles-Angels game. She claims that was our first date. I didn't take it as a first date. I had to do 2 radio hits during. I was like leaving and going into the parking lot. I was kind of slouched over. I was a nubby bar. I could write it down for you, but it's no longer around.
Okay.
You've heard of it. You would say, you took her there?
Really?
And it was nubs. But I didn't view it as a date. I viewed it as I want to make sure you're not a 44-year-old man in his tighty whities on his keyboard. And also I want to see if I'm interested. If I am, and if you're interested, we'll go out on a date.
That's the nature of a date.
Seriously?
Yeah, you went on a date.
That was a date.
You met a time. You met at a place. The point was to see the other person. Date.
Well, that was an awful scheduled first date by me. She should not have been impressed. And I can't imagine she was.
I think she was underwhelmed, I think.
I would hope so, especially me shuffling in there, waddling over.
Here he is, everybody.
That's tough. But it worked out.
Yes, it
But our
did.
first real date
Mm-hmm.
was a few days later. We went to an Orioles-Nats game at Nationals Park.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I bring this up.
Yep.
We went to a baseball game. We chopped it up. We talked about our favorite Orioles. There's ebbs and flows to conversation, and you're watching games, and you can get up and go to the bathroom or get a drink. And it was a very comfortable setting. We're in public, so you don't have to be nervous. You know, there's nothing crazy going to happen with this scary bearded man, right? I think baseball's a great first date. In fact, that day was the day that I got taken out of my car, thrown on the ground, and several police
was
officers.
that day?
Yeah.
Same day?
I was mistaken.
That's like Seinfeld episodes where it's like, that's the same episode? I can't believe that was the same episode of Grant Paulson.
Yeah, I'll never forget it because I'm on anxiety medication to this day because of it.
Mm.
August 4th, 2014. You can look it up. Orioles Nationals at Nats Park. We're going on our first date to the ball game, and I had to call her and tell her, hey, I'm in the back of a cop car. I was just thrown on the ground at gunpoint by
I know I didn't trust this guy.
several officers as I came out of Chipotle because they thought I had stolen a vehicle that was my vehicle. It was just a little whoopsie daisy.
A little whoopsie daisy.
Just a little mishap as several guns are drawn on me and there's rocks in my beard.
All right, let's go a little Grant Paulson bingo.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Go
So that
for it.
what year was that? You said 2014 was the year?
August 4th, 2014 is what you're looking
August 4th, 2014. What happened in the game?
for. I don't remember.
So this is you usually remember every detail like this, but your memory may be jarred by the whole
I think I was
guns
on that
drawn
night.
thing.
I was trying to impress a lady.
Mm-hmm.
I think Chris Davis did something. If I had to, I remember him for some reason from that night.
Okay, he scored a run, had a base on balls.
That's not going to do
He
it.
was in the game. He played.
Starting pitchers, who did we have?
You tell me. You don't remember any of it?
I like this game. It probably was also the fact that I don't know if you heard. I had 7 guns drawn on me.
One
and
guy
I was thrown into the back of a cop car.
One guy's still in the big leagues with good stuff. The other guy, I've been mistaken for him.
Okay, that guy's Tanner Roark.
Tanner Roark, yes.
Yeah. And who was the Oriole? You said?
Yeah,
What
he's
was
still in the big leagues. Good stuff.
Brian Mattis.
Nope.
No, he's the late Brian Mattis. No, I'm trying to think of the guy.
Right
Kevin
hand,
Gossman.
Kevin Gossman.
That's it. Mattis, obviously no longer with us, but sad story. But moved on to the Cardinals.
7-3 Oreos win to go to 63-48. Nats fall to 60-50.
Wow.
On the day, on August 4th.
You hate to see it.
Yeah, hate to see it.
But yeah, just a little whoopsie daisy moment, and we're on our way. But can you imagine getting that call? I call it my first date. You're saying it's our second date. I pick up the phone and I say, hey, I'm going to be late. Already just a terrible thing. I'm the most, you know this, I'm the most punctual.
You're a punctual
person
Peter,
ever.
yeah.
And she's like, okay, no problem. I'm like, we're not going to eat beforehand. We'll just meet at the game around first pitch. Okay, cool. What's up? I'll explain later, but I'm in the back of a cop car.
You're my one call.
I was cuffed for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
Probably several minutes, but it felt like an hour before we sorted some things out.
So my second date with my now wife, our third date, we actually did go to a baseball game, went to an Orioles game. But our second date, similar type story where it's like I called and it sounded like I was making up the worst excuse ever. And I'm like, hey, I'm on my way, but I'm locked out of my place. The key still works to my apartment door, but the front door, either somebody broke the key off in the lock or something. But we cannot open the door to the building, not to my apartment. You follow me?
Yeah.
And like, I don't have any of the stuff I need. I don't know what whatever, but like I'm just gonna leave and try to hope that the locksmith comes later so that I can get into my apartment later. And she's like, "Do you want to cancel?" I was like, "No, I don't want to cancel, but just let you know that it's I didn't have a chance to shower." And anyway, let's go watch V for Vendetta. That's what we did.
V for Vendetta.
That was our second date.
Is she a movie theater lady?
Not really.
Are you? So movies first date you like? Or that was
Yeah,
second
that was our
date.
second date. Yeah.
But still, you like an early date movie. I do too, but people hate it because there's no interaction. You're not talking.
Well, we were supposed to go to dinner, supposed to do like some
So you
fun
guys
stuff.
just didn't. You sat near each other.
Yeah, so we I swung by, picked her up on the way to the movie, like we were late.
Any
the whole
physical touch at all? Like, do you try to hold hands leaving the theater?
No, it was very little. For example, it's like when she goes to her wall, it's like, no, I got it. A little tap on the arm.
Just letting her know.
Type stuff. Yeah,
Oh,
it's like,
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
still
yeah.
here. It's like the after the whistle theatrics in hockey. Where it's like, I'm just letting you know that I'm here.
Yeah.
Or after, or
No arm around her shoulders in the movie.
because that was gross, quite frankly.
Okay.
It was hot.
Did you do a man seat between the two of you?
No, we sit next to each other. But it's like when Max Crosby does to Pat Mahomes. I'm just letting you know I'm going to be here.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm
You
here all
just
the time.
touch every time you can.
I know what
Little
you're doing,
touch on the
dog.
arm.
I know what you're doing, dog. Back off.
That's outstanding. So that was my first date. That's a terrible first date. I've always said the Nats game was our first date. I guess I should rethink about.
Yeah,
that.
I mean, the prerequisites are all met for a date. It's an arranged time, place, a person.
I think there's such a thing as a meeting, a feeling out meeting that isn't a date.
No, not in person.
What's the definition of a date?
Person, place, time.
But it could be platonic.
Those are, yeah.
Are you saying romantically?
Well, of course, yeah. There's
There's
implied.
romantic interest.
That's implied.
Okay.
And here's the point: that on a date, you're actually discovering if there is. You're doing that whether you want to admit that it's a date or not. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We've all had first dates where the other person was not interested. Right? That's happened to us.
I think it's the best when you sit near someone at a first date in public. Like this guy on Twitter, maybe it's actually a girl, I don't know. Aaron says, please no to first dates at the ballpark on behalf of those sitting in front of or behind you that actually want to pay attention.
Oh,
I get kind of locked in. I love eavesdropping on a first date.
No, that's the bits.
Really?
Yeah, all the work.
Oh, the bad shtick and
so uncomfortable.
The feeling like I'm like, Allison, I think this guy's doing well. They're leaving together. Let's see where this goes.
Yeah, but then you get the guy that's trying to be impressive, and it's like the experts, like, what's interesting is the way a slider sounds different than a curveball when you're in the batter's box. The reason I know that is because I played. Like,
oh, that's the pits. Yeah. Mr. Tough Guy, Mr. Baseball. If it wasn't for my knee injury, I'd have been on the Rochester Red Wings.
Wasn't for my lack of ability.
I was in the minor leagues. I'm like looking him up on Baseball Reference. It's a pretty thorough website. Don't see you on Baseball Reference. They don't have me on there, but I played.
I did. I played.
I got everybody here, buddy. If Danny Rouillet got a spring training at bat, he'd show up there.
I would have shown up.
G&D on the Fan, taking you up to 6:30.
I'm Toby Altizer with your sports update on the Fan, and this update is presented by PVI Office Furniture. Fast, excellent, affordable business grows with PVI. In baseball, the Nationals fell to the Guardians 8-6 today. Michael Soroka going 5 innings, giving up 4 earned runs in his first start since March 31st, the second start of the year. The Nationals have the day off tomorrow before they take on the Cardinals for 3 at Nationals Park starting on Friday night. In hockey, the Capitals fell short of the Hurricanes in Game 1, 2-1 in overtime. The Hurricanes taking a 1-0 series lead. Game 2 going to be tomorrow night. Also in hockey, the Utah Hockey Club has officially introduced their new team name. They'll be known as the Utah Mammoth. In basketball last night, the Warriors beat the Timberwolves 99-88. Bigger story coming out of it, though. Steph Curry left the game with a hamstring strain, and he's going to miss at least 1 week with a grade 1 left hamstring strain. The Pacers beat the Cavaliers 120-119 to take a 2-0 series lead. Tonight, Celtics and Knicks, Game 2. New York leads that series 1-0, 7 p.m. tip-off for that one. Thunder and Nuggets, Game 2. Denver leads that series 1-0, 9:30 tip-off for that one. In the NFL, Cowboys traded for Steelers wide receiver George Pickens, giving up a 3rd-round pick and swapping a 5th and a 6th-round pick in 2027. And the Jaguars released wide receiver Gabe Davis 1 year after they signed him to a 3-year, $39 million extension. Looking to upgrade your office game? At PVI, we'll come to you to design the perfect office space for your team. No hassle, no stress, just a game-changing upgrade. Hit a grand slam with PVI Office Furniture when you call today to score 15% off your purchase. Get your office in championship shape at PVI.com. From the Crop Metcalf 5-Star Sports Desk, I'm Toby Altizer on the Fan.
Caller 10 right now at 800-636-1067. You're going to win a 4-pack of tickets to the DC Defenders against Arlington Sunday, May 18th at Audi Field. Tickets are on sale now. For tickets and more event information, go to thefandc.com. Audi is right across South Cap from where we're sitting in the left field concourse at Nationals Park. You can listen to us on 106.7 The Fan or wherever you go, coast to coast, on the Odyssey app, of course. We are streaming on video on the 106.7 The Fan YouTube page as well. Grant and Danny, welcoming you back. After a Nats loss, they dropped an 8-6 game. They gave up 8 runs in 1 inning, and again, their bullpen imploded. So if you're keeping score at home, Nats Game 2 loss last night in the doubleheader. Caps get outworked and just manhandled by the Hurricanes in an overtime loss, albeit. And then you had the loss today. So we got a little L3 working in D.C. that we're going to need the Caps to end tomorrow night at home.
Yeah, last 24 hours unkind in the district. So you're hoping for, maybe a little sunshine after those showers. But, yeah, what a bizarre 24-hour series for Washington. Because that's what it was. In less than 24 hours, they played 3 games, and Cincinnati's on to wherever Cincinnati's going.
Cleveland.
We get – damn it. I botched that. Because I was trying to do the on to Cincinnati bit for Cleveland.
Right. They're on to Cincinnati.
Yeah. Or Washington just came from Cincinnati.
You're fine. Everything.
I screwed that up. Well, you try to do a zing, fired off right, and then it's worse. And so you got to go back and explain what you were thinking.
No, you look good. You got a black polo on and khaki shorts. What's going on in the NBA playoffs? And I mean this in the best way possible.
What's the deal? Yeah,
the games have been really good, and we've had 4 round 2 games right now in the conference semis, and the underdog on the road has won all 4 of those games. I'm old enough to remember when that did not happen in the NBA playoffs. It was just cannon fodder for the most part until sometimes even the 2 teams that were the best in the finals or the conference finals. It was just the Warriors or the Heat or whoever LeBron played for in the East every single year. This has been a blast, utterly unpredictable. Last night, the Pacers beat the Cavaliers 120-119 on a Tyrese Halliburton 3-pointer with a second to go.
Just unbelievable.
He is having an all-time postseason run in the early going. They've come back to win now in the final minute in both of their games in this series. They were massive underdogs. Nobody gave them a chance in that series, and here they are.
This is what happens. These guys who are thought of as stars, thought of as really good players, and Halliburton was on the U.S. national team as a gold medal winner. I mean, obviously clearly thought of as one of the dozen, 12, 13, 15, whatever you want to say, best players in the association, best players in the world. Well, guys have their playoff renaissances, right? Everybody's going through it. I'm not putting him on the level of a Giannis yet. Obviously, he was, MVP and is a champion, but that's what happened. It was like, Giannis is great. oh, well, Giannis is great. And then all of a sudden the team's on his back and everything's going right. And I don't think the Pacers are a champion, but guys will have these kinds of playoff renaissances where they have big shot after big shot on the national stage. It's kind of like that same juice that like a quarterback can get, right? Where you think if everybody falls in love with Jaden Daniels because the whole country sees a couple primetime showcases, they see a Hail Mary, and next thing you know, he's part of the cool kids club. You do enough of those things, you win a couple series, and people start treating you differently. I mean, it's happened a million times in basketball, but it's cool to see.
And it wasn't calm and a set shot where they come down the floor and they call a timeout and then they get him a look out of.
It was a bit of chaos, wasn't it?
An inbound where he's coming off of a screen and he's open. It was frenetic. Like he's fighting for a rebound, a loose ball. He grabs it. He's kind of scrambling and zanily running out behind the perimeter, tries to make a guy and shake him, miss, and then he hoists and hits just an unbelievable. The shot making for him late in these games has been staggering.
It felt very Jason Tatum-y. I've seen Tatum do that sort of deal, right? There's nothing there, so here he comes with a little bit of a hezzy and a step back, making his own space.
I'm a sucker for a crazy stat. This is one of the best I've heard in a long, long time. From ESPN Research, since 97-98, so we're going back 20 years of playoff basketball, teams are 3 and 1,640, okay? 3 wins, 1,640 losses when trailing by 7 or more points in the final minute of the fourth quarter or overtime in the playoffs. 2 of the 3 wins have been the Pacers in this series in games 1 and 2.
Amazing.
So the other teams are 1 and 1,640 over 20 years, and the Halliburtons have 2 wins.
Never tell me the odds.
2-0. Isn't that crazy?
Yes, it is. That's the answer to that. I didn't realize it was that stark. I mean, you'd rather be up 7 points with a minute to go, I would say.
Well, they've won basically generationally.
Yes.
You'll remember where you are, Charlie Slow style, so you remember where you were that time that Halliburton did that thing. And they've had 2 of those to start this series.
I can still remember Maryland losing to Duke when they had a similar lead like that. They were up 10 with just about a minute left. And, Jason Williams or Jay Williams, whatever he prefers to be called, happened. And it was just a meltdown and incredible shot making from Duke. And it's still one of the most gut punching losses I can ever remember as a sports fan. And I still remember that one, kind of to your point. I was in college when that happened. That's wild that it happened twice in 1 week. And it's happened one other time in the association in 30 years.
But that's 4 series where the underdog has not lost, because last night the Warriors in their game 1 with the Timberwolves got a win 99-88. By the way, that happened in a game where Steph Curry got hurt early. He played 13 minutes. If you would have told me before the game,
how about that?
Steph's getting hurt in minute 13, I would have told you they're going to lose by 20. Because the reason I don't have them winning the series at all, they'll compete. They're the Warriors, but I don't think they can win the series because there's not enough scoring, shot making. It's Steph and Jimmy buckets and pray for rain, basically. But they got 18 last night from Draymond Green. They got 24 from Buddy Hield, who was outstanding.
Yeah.
Steph got off to a really good start. Was 5 of 9 from the floor, 3 of 6. But he's going to possibly miss a couple of games here. We're still awaiting word on exactly what's going on. But if you're the Wolves, you got to feel awful because you lose at home. You lose in a game where Steph wasn't there for basically 3 quarters. And not only that, it wasn't that close. Like in garbage time, they pulled back in to within 11. But that was a 20-plus point game going into the fourth.
Yeah, I mean, Golden State is now with Steph Curry. They're still a team I wouldn't want to see, for anybody in the postseason. But without him, who knows? I feel okay if I was Minnesota. It was like you could do that one time, but are you going to be able to beat me 3 more times in this series without Steph Curry at 100% or if at all, maybe for a game or 2 games, et cetera? But your point's right. I mean, Minnesota had a golden opportunity. Kind of blew that by, just again, they looked at it. They didn't have many answers in terms of their own offense. It looked like a disjointed group.
The 2 games tonight, the Knicks are up 1-0 on the Celtics. Nobody predicted that. That game won by New York in overtime, oh, by the way. And that was another wild finish. Jalen Brunson's just a big shot.
Yeah.
Big time money at the end of the game, dude.
They're tough as nails, that New York team. Man.
They
They'll make you earn it.
But I would actually right now, I might actually do this as soon as our show ends because they don't tip off till 7. I might go to FanDuel and bet the Celtics to win the next 4. I think there's a little bit of an overreaction to what happened in that game. Boston was in control. I know they lost, but look up the 3-point shooting. It was a historically bad performance. Their shot chart from that game was it the third quarter that was circulating, was the legitimately funniest thing I've ever seen.
I've never seen a team miss 45 threes in a game. I don't think.
But it hasn't happened in the playoffs. I mean, it was the worst 3-point shooting performance ever. But The third quarter, Danny, have you seen their shot chart?
No.
Hilarious. It's all threes but one basket where they were in transition at the rim. Everything else, they took 19 of their 23rd quarter shots from deep. By the way, barely hit any of them.
Yeah.
But it's all three-pointers. How do you do that for a whole quarter? I know what the NBA is. I know what it's not.
Toby's showing it to me now. It looks like a smiley face.
Right. That's the funniest shot chart I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
And it's the reason they lost. They're going to live by the three, die by the three, and they died. But maybe the Knicks win one more. Maybe. That series is not going 7. I don't think they can win 2 more games.
I still think Boston wins that series. I think your point's right. But the Knicks are not going to go down without a fight. I mean, this reminds me, totally different construction, obviously, but some of those Knicks teams with Ewing and Starks and company, where you could beat them, and a lot of teams did. But man, you were going to go through it. You were going to have some physical times with them. They were going to defend you. They were going to hound you, and just they have a bunch of winning players like Anunoby and Sidwell Friends' own Josh Hart. Just the way that those guys play together and they make you earn stuff. That's a pretty good team. I don't think they're championship caliber. I think Boston is, so I think Boston will win this series. But I bet you the Knicks get one more. Maybe one time when the Garden is frenetic and Boston goes cold a little bit in the second half. I think the Knicks can steal one more, but I think Boston wins the series.
Did somebody say Sidwell Friends?
Yeah. So you know what you got to do. I'm trying to tee you up.
Is that the home of John Barenthal?
Yes. And Frank Hanrahan.
My daughters.
There it is.
Go to Sidwell Friends.
Every time.
My Josh Hart.
Oh, yeah.
Went to Villanova.
Uh-huh.
But before that, cut his teeth at Sidwell Friends. 9:30 tip tonight for the Denver Nuggets and the Oklahoma City Thunder. Denver also stole game 1. Here's the interesting thing about this is I know no one's given them a chance. They have the best player in the series still, in my opinion.
That's the sneaky thing.
SGA is the man. Really, really good basketball player. Nikola Jokic is alive. He's on the floor, yeah? He's healthy. The dude that averaged 30 and shot 58% from the floor and 80% from the stripe this season with 13 rebounds and 10.2 assists. That guy?
Yeah, that's the guy.
40 and 20. Did you see how demonstrative he was in the huddle late in that game?
Yes.
What a great moment for him. Because I think, and I'd tag you in on this, you would have a better feel for this. My outsider opinion on him is people feel like he's not a squeeze every ounce out of what his talent is, right? He's not like the worker who's desperate, and if they lose, he'll just go watch the ponies in his homeland or whatever. That's like the narrative. To see him kind of grabbing face masks, so to speak, and telling his coach, and it's a new coach because they fired their other one, get the hell out of the huddle. It's my time. Yeah. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, there are a couple moments on camera. He's screaming at Michael Porter Jr. at one point to get back in and challenge a three-point shot that ended up going in for Oklahoma City. I think he recognizes to a degree that this window isn't indefinite. And you could see the urgency with how he's playing, but how he's trying to make sure that everyone else kind of gets it too, right? I mean, it takes a guy like Russell Westbrook coming to that team who's been a godsend for them. I know everybody likes to make fun of Russell Westbrook, and I get that. It's easy to make fun of a guy who couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat sometimes, and yet still, just shoots line drives at the rim. But making big plays, making hustle plays, winning plays, et cetera. He found Gordon on that fast break with a drive and dish. That sort of, we have to do this right now because you don't know if and when it's ever going to happen again. You could sort of see that. And it's a tough draw for Oklahoma City. But everybody's tough at this point, right, when you're down to this final group.
Tomorrow on the program, we're going to be live from City Tap House. We're going to be getting you ready for the Caps, Game 2 with the Hurricanes. And if that game doesn't look a lot different, they're going to be hitting the road, going to Raleigh, down 0-2. But I think they're going to be a lot better. We've talked today, and early in the show, you can go back. We did a pretty detailed breakdown for over an hour. We even had Joe B on after that. We got to the bottom of all things Caps issues last night. It sounds like your worry, without putting words in your mouth, is that the Canes are just better and too good. I think that the Caps playing their best game and a reversal of poor play from last night, they're every bit as good as Carolina and can win any of these games in a weird playoff series. So I'm looking for them to just be a very different team tomorrow. But Carolina's going to have the puck more. That's what they do, and it's what they did all year. They're going to have more shot attempts. I know people worry about that. That's what they've done all year long and didn't win as many games as the Capitals and basically split the 4 games that they played. And by the way, only 1 game played for Logan Thompson against Carolina in those 4 games. Oh, by the way. But what I'm hoping is the opportunities Washington gets that they pot. They had a couple of good chances early that they did nothing with. Either because Tom Wilson fell down 3 times in the first period in the offensive end, or think about the Ryan Leonard breakaway where he went backhand and just missed the net when he had the goalie beat. If you score 1 or 2 of those, Carolina's going to score more than 1 regulation goal. I promise you that. You're going to need 3 or 4 to beat this team. 15 shots, man. That's my conversation is get the puck, get more shots. They like quality over quantity, which is fine. But you need to be up over 20, and you want to be as close to 30 as possible to actually have a legitimate chance to just even up the discrepancy in puck possession.
So my view is better is relative. So I think if you have a data set where you would go, all right, you got this. These are the 2 teams. Go out into the world, compete for 82 games, and come back, and we'll see who's got more points.
Well, if only we got a chance to do that.
And
that would be quite an exercise.
And I think the Capitals would end up with more points. I think this matchup, they would not. I think Carolina, whatever it is about the playing style, the way that they do things, I think all the negative things the Capitals did were because of Carolina. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that there's a
that's
fix.
interesting. Let me double click on that.
Like, to me, it's a matchup thing.
Yeah. Well, I think it's, again, that was my scariest team going into the series, so I'm with you. But you think that they played badly. You're saying almost 100% of it because of Carolina.
I think Carolina is the catalyst. I think they're the influencer. So put a percentage pie on it.
Yeah.
Out of 100, I think it's 75 Carolina.
Okay.
25 Washington.
That's probably reasonable. I think early in the game, if you go back, not you personally, but just
if one
did and watch the early shifts of that game, I think you'll see that while, yes, Carolina had the puck more, Washington had a couple of chances. They had a little 2-on-1 where Tom Wilson lost his edge and was kind of falling in front of the net on a cross pass in front of the net. And they just had a couple of, like, Protas had a puck rolling that he tried to whack at for a one-timer that ended up going wildly into the net. There were just moments that Carolina had nothing to do with. But, yes, Carolina was so much better. They dominated them, and they were the aggressor. So they were the main reason why the Caps were bad. But I also think it didn't hurt Carolina, so it's hard to make this excuse. But history tells us that the Capitals with rest, it's not fun.
They ain't good.
I mean, the whole week sitting around, everyone's like, this is awesome. Ovi's gotten time to sit around and think about Logan Thompson and Alexi Protas. Did you just show up here? Have you ever watched this team? If they have more than 48 hours to wait, they're like a shinny hockey team. Shinny is what they call it.
What was that?
It's like Pee-wee or something.
I see. Okay.
It's a Canadian term. It's a Craig Laughlin term. But they just look different when they have more. I don't know why. I'm just telling you they do. And I hope that they look like the Capitals that we saw much of the year and in the first round in game number 2.
Yeah, they're going to have to. I mean, again, it sounds funny if you just look at the box. Well, I guess the box score tells a different story. But if you're going, what are you guys talking about? They lost in overtime 2-1. If you watched, just the level of domination. I mean, it was like an exhausted dog. The analogy I used earlier. He's playing fetch because he has to play fetch.
Yeah,
like just going deep into your own zone. Getting the puck, doing everything you can just to get to center ice. Crap, I got to do it again. They looked defeated.
Oh yeah,
for the better part of that game.
The domination to me was that the Caps couldn't get to the offensive zone and get shots. It was less about the amount of good looks for Carolina. Like there just weren't that many times over the course of the game where I'm in my seat and I'm going, "Oh my God, that was almost a goal." There weren't a lot of those, and Thompson was very, very steady. Frankly, the game 3 in Montreal was like more rushes and more bad and more terrible, I thought, defensively. And you needed more 10-bell, like grade A type saves. I didn't think that was the case. But if you don't have the puck, nothing good can happen. And they just didn't have the puck. And that was kind of what we heard from the experts when we said, why is this series so lopsided? Why does everyone love Carolina? The analytics of they will dominate the puck. They will have a lot more attempts than you. They'll go quantity over your quality. It might not mean they score a lot of goals, but you better take advantage of your chances because you're not going to get a lot of them. And they just didn't. Leonard scores on that breakaway. It's 2-1 with 5 to play. Who knows what we're saying today? Didn't happen. And they didn't steal a game that they had no business winning. But you leave the arena last night, it was not a good feeling.
No, I imagine. I mean, the looks on the players' faces after that goal in overtime, obviously you're not going to be smiling and happy and high-fiving.
Probably a little tired.
Yeah, you probably took it out, but it looked like that felt like more than one loss. Like it was a kind of again, maybe I'm reading too much into it and ascribing my own emotions to it. But man, I hope that there's a formula. I hope that there's something that the Caps have as a counterpunch that we didn't see that in this first game, but wait till you see these zone breakouts. I think everyone knew what everyone was going to do, and I don't know that the Caps have a counter. I think as good as Spencer Carberry is, it's something about this matchup, this team, the way, Carolina does things. It reminds, honestly, for so many years of the way, this is before kind of Rock the Red, but the way Pittsburgh would just have Washington's number. Just no matter how the Caps were constructed, how good they were, how defensively oriented, how offensively capable, the counterattacks, this checking style, this forechecking, didn't matter. It was always the Penguins were just going to sun them. And I'm worried that for whatever reason, this is what that relationship is kind of ending up like.
Tomorrow, City Tap House. Come on out and hang with us ahead of Game 2 if you're going to the game, if you've got a ticket. That is your pregame spot in Penn Court or in the neighborhood. We're just a few blocks away from Capital One Arena. We're all walking over when the show ends together. So come on out and enjoy yourself. Have a drink, have some food, and get ready for Caps hockey. Thanks for listening. For Darius back in studio. Linnell is getting ready for overtime. Toby out here helping us out on the production. Ryan, who is in an undisclosed location in Northern Virginia. And Danny, I'm Grant saying so long. We will catch you tomorrow at 2 from City Tap.
Thank you.